Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. We wanted to be able to introduce ourselves, give you a little background about who we are, and tell you what this game is, and kind of explain the basics of how it works. I'm Brian Scheidler,
I'm Megan Scheidler.
and we are the creators of this game. For me, I am the editor in chief of Good Nerd Bad Nerd, which is where we get our game company name from, Good Nerd Bad Nerd Games. Good Nerd Bad Nerd is a Los Angeles-based news outlet. It's got a podcast. That's how it got its start. But we do news, entertainment, game reviews, movie reviews, all pretty much anything you would expect from a entertainment news outlet. Board games are a part of that. Love board games, always have. I remember doing BattleTech as a kid, where you had the figures, and you had to be like, well, I'm in water, so am I too tall? Really, really nerdy stuff. Always consider myself a nerd, but board games have always been a part of my life, and that is what kind of inspired me to create my own board game. Also, the fact I can't program and I can't do art, so I couldn't do a video game. But Megan, you want to tell them about?
So I am not as big of a nerd, but I love nerdy things and I love Brian. So my background is in theater. I have a theater arts degree, but in the design arena. So I'm a scenic designer, and I also do graphic design. I do illustration. I just love art. So Brian kind of lucked out when he married me, because now I'm essentially his art director for this game. And so I had a lot of ideas as far as where artistically this game could go and where visually we could take the themes of this game. And yeah, that's my background. I love art. I love I just can't wait to introduce you to the artist that actually did the art for this game specifically, and his love for typography and whatnot. But we'll get into that later. I mean,
You say you're not a nerd.
I love typography as well, but we'll talk about that later.
I will say, she says I lucked out, but this game would not exist without her abilities.
Well, it would just look a lot different. It would just be
no.
It would just be really ugly.
Well, yes, that's true.
I'm just
that's
kidding.
true.
No, it wouldn't look at all like it.
There would be no rule book.
I did the rule book.
I mean, I wrote out a bunch of rules, but she's like, well, let's organize them and use commas.
Yeah, I used to teach graphic design at the high school level. I also taught yearbooks, so I did a lot of work in InDesign. And so InDesign was the Adobe platform, I guess you would say, that we used to create our rule book, and that I used to create the rule book. And I just love working with Adobe products. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's InDesign or Photoshop or Illustrator or, Anyway, so I guess I'm a design nerd, and he's the fun nerd. I don't know.
So that's who we are. But if you're here, you probably are like, oh, a new board game. I'm interested in that. What is this game? The Treasure of Montecristo Island is a co-op adventure survival game with crafting. And the premise of the game is you and the fellow members of your crew are adventurers, you are treasure hunters, and you have discovered a new clue to the legendary treasure of Montecristo Island. Now, I want to clarify, because I've had this question before. This game is not based on the book by Dumas. It is not based on the Count of Monte Cristo. That book is based on the original legend of this island. And this game is also based on that legend. So, two separate things based on the same legend.
Fan fiction for history.
Yes, I was a history major, so that may have played into it. But the way the game works, you and your crew, and each character is unique. They have different abilities, and they're randomly selected. You randomly pick your character at the start of each game. You arrive at the island, and you have to survive the island. You have to craft different tools to help you, and ultimately, your goal is to find the treasure. And to do this, you have to light 4 different altars. And only once you've done that will the location of the treasure be revealed. Through some fairly ingenious mechanics, if I do say so myself, the location of the treasure is unique every game. So you can't prepare for it. It's because there'd be no replay value if it was in the same spot, right?
We really wanted to create a game that was different every single time that you play it. Replayability was very important to us because we don't like games that we can anticipate the ending or plan ahead necessarily too much in advance.
We were really inspired by games that had different mechanics that did offer that replayability, whether it was Pandemic or Betrayal. And so we were inspired to make sure our game had that as well, whether it was the random selection of your team, the randomness of how you gain materials or where
and
the treasure is.
And also there's a card deck in play.
Yeah.
So every evening there is a card that happens, and that might help your team. It might really hurt your team. It's different every single time you play.
And the difficulty of the game is because each character has 3 meters that they have to manage. You have your health meter, your hunger meter, and your thirst meter. So you have to be aware of all those things as you're going around the island gathering resources. So if someone's not doing great on health or food and water, they have to deal with that. And so they're not going to be so helpful. But these are all things that help increase that difficulty, increase that replayability.
But also you have to work as a team.
Yeah.
So sometimes you will gather resources and you'll give them off to another player because they are more in need of those resources than you are.
The other aspect of the game that is important for you guys to know is there is built into the mechanics an NPC. For a board game, this was something that I don't know if I've ever seen it. And I am the first one to admit there are so many board games out there I have not played, so many amazing games I haven't played. But for all the big ones that I know of that I've played, an NPC is pretty rare. And this is a character it's an antagonist that is aggressively going after the crew. And the rules are defined in a way that it's coming after you. And that was another thing that we thought was really important to this game, to give it that replayability, but also to make it have that consistent challenge that you can't ever relax. You're always in danger. And that was an important thing for us.
You're in danger from the thief. You're in danger from environmental elements that are brought up every evening. So, yeah, you can't relax on the island.
And, I mean, saying you can't relax on the island, even once you've discovered the treasure, the game's not over. You have to get off the island. So, you come to the island, you got to find this treasure, you got to survive, and you got to get out of there. We have had games in our beta testing where the NPC has won. The NPC has defeated us. And that's why we know this game works. That's why we know you're going to love this game, because the ability for you to lose is there. Because a game where you can't lose isn't fun. And you can definitely lose this game.
You can be really mad about losing, but we think it's a good thing that it is possible.
So that's the game. We know you guys are going to love it, and we've got a lot more to tell you about how we got to this point, how we created the game. We're going to tell you the roadmap that we went through from early on what the game looked like to the finished product. You're going to get to hear from other people who helped us, our producer, the artists we brought in, some people who helped us with the beta testing. You're going to get all the behind the scenes look, and we're just so thrilled that you guys are here to take part in this.